Hey guys, it's Kevin again, continuing my binge of Legion Season 3. This time I'm going to be discussing episodes 5 through 7, and obviously I was very excited to go into this trio of episodes, really not knowing what was going to happen, and I have to say, this set of episodes is probably even stronger than the first three I talked about. I mean, there's a lot that really does go down here, and as a result, I think I have a lot more to talk about for sure. So if you guys were a little bit disappointed with the length of the last one, I have a lot more to discuss here for sure. So we're just going to get into it, starting off with episode 5. Which, look, Legion's a show where, like I've said, it operates best when you don't really know what's going on, but this has to be one of the most eventful episodes we've ever gotten of the show. I mean, pretty much from the beginning, yeah, it's all out war. I mean, David goes right after, like, Clark's husband, Daniel, and all the Vermilions and things like that. We get this epic sequence with, like, them driving this bus, and then David appears, and, just right off the bat, they tell you that they are not fucking around here. I mean, he even kills a man that's, like, begging to be spared. He is just not, messing around here. He definitely is pulling no punches this time, and he's not sparing anyone. He's just so pissed off at, Division 3 at the moment, and, the Division 3 guards are coming in, they got guns armed, and Daniel's the only one alive at this point. They wipe out pretty much everyone, but David's wiped his memory, so he doesn't even remember his name. He doesn't have any affiliation with Clark, so Daniel's just a blank slate at this point. He means absolutely nothing to them at this point, which is really crazy to think about. And so from there, like I said, we get pretty much an all-out war here with David and Division 3. And we get a lot of really great moments as a result of that. Very early on, we figure out where Switch is. Basically, she's in a time where basically no time exists at all. This is how she learns to perfect her abilities and things like that. But she still doesn't want to time travel anymore. She feels it's far too dangerous, and I really like the way we get into that. Autonomy, I need to clarify that he actually didn't die in the last episode. That was just in the beginning. Him and the Vermilions decide that they're just going to go up to space to get away from all this because they know that they're not safe at all and they're definitely in danger. So they get away very quickly. And then pretty much after that, that's when David does end up attacking, and some really crazy shit goes down. All of David's children, I guess, or followers in that way, they start attacking Carrie, and Carrie's able to take them out, like, fairly quickly, and that was a very effective moment for sure. I love seeing Carrie being a badass. It's something I've always liked in this show. I think Emma Midthunder is just so great when it comes to that, and this was definitely a standout moment for sure. There's that moment where you think that they're going to kill her, but thankfully they don't. She does, in fact, end up living, thankfully. But she almost does... She almost does end up getting stabbed there, but she kills them from behind, and I thought that was and basically, the big thing that goes down, though, is between Sid and David, the stuff we get with them. We get a really big change with Sid here, because at this, up to this point, she has been very set on just, doing what she can to annihilate David, and putting an end to his power in that way. But now she's starting to see where he's coming from, that he wants to change things. He knows that he has to go back, but he also knows that, unfortunately, because he has to go back in time, these two are never going to have that love for each other anymore. The way things are going to have to go, these two aren't going to be able to fall in love anymore. And it is a very sort of saddening moment in that way. But it also shows that these two are going to get to be the best versions of themselves. You also kind of wonder, though, if David is in over his head. He's promising Sid that, everyone that died, they're going to come back. You don't have to worry about anything. It's all going to be okay, but you're kind of wondering, like, is that really the case and things like that? You don't really know if David is on the right path there, and you want to believe that characters like Clark and, other characters that died are in fact going to come back, but you're just not entirely sure. And so what he ends up doing is he gets inside Sid's body, he finds a way to stop Carrie at that moment, and Sid, now she is in her own mind. She's mindless, she's in, like, the astral plane or something like that. We'll get more into that in the next episode. And then as far as Farouk goes, he gets shoved back into that time before time, that like Instagram filter type place where everything moves like really slowly. So he's kind of trapped there at the moment, mainly because they knew David would try to go after him. So they decide that they're going to spare him. They throw him in there. But of course, the two biggest things that end up going down here, one, Clark is killed, and that moment was, holy shit. I mean, I was not expecting them to kill Clark the way they did. But the moment where he confronts David and he says, like, I should have killed you the first time we met up. And then David just, like, sends him into outer space and you see him, he's got, like, no oxygen. He's just, like, floating there. It's probably one of the most grim sights in the entire show. And there's been a lot of really, just dark moments here, but it's probably one of the darkest for sure, is seeing that, and I think they did some really good stuff there. But the most tragic moment, without a doubt, has to be that of Lenny's fate in this episode, because we knew things were not going to go down a good path with Lenny, but this was far more tragic than I was really expecting. I mean, very early on, David sees all of his followers, and Lenny is just, she's not even in tears. She's not even crying about it. She's just like in deep anguish. She's telling him that, he killed her child and things like that. And David's saying, no, 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 that was just a time eater. But she said that she watched her child die. And she kind of has this realization where, like, she wants to be a good person. Yes, she hasn't been, but she wants to be a good person. But it's David that keeps getting in the way of that. And although she could try to, she is David's best friend in that way. These two have always had that connection. And if she wants to be able to move on from this, she feels she needs to suffer, and she wishes that she could have changed things. And this is the first time where David is not the person to save her here. And you get this moment where, you think maybe David's going to be able to bring her back to reality, but no, she ends up stabbing herself, and it's a really saddening moment, but it feels entirely appropriate for a character like Lenny. Lenny is someone who, throughout a lot of the show, hasn't really been in control of herself. She hasn't really been able to, develop that sort of conscience in that way. Season 1, she was very much a villain. She was being controlled by Shadow King and things like that. But then Season 2, she tried to, she became the host, but she killed Amy because of it. Amy had to die at that cost because of what Lenny did. And Lenny knows that now she has to repay for that. She knows that there has not been a single thing in her life that she really has earned. And David has been the cause for a lot of that. David is the reason why she's in the position that she is. And so because of that, she feels that there's no way for her to get out of this but then killing herself. And again, Aubrey Plaza has been such a talent in the show. I'm definitely going to miss her for sure. I think she was the big standout of this show for me easily, and it's going to be very sad to not see her, but it was definitely a very satisfying moment, and what this does for David, him now realizing that, like, he's going to go back in time, but he can't do what he did before. He can't just save his mother. He needs to find some other new course of action. And, now while he is upset that Lenny's gone, he still has that mentality that she's going to come back. And that's the way that he ropes Switch back into this, that we're going to try something different. We're not going to have to keep going back. This will be the last time, he promises her. Although that's probably not the case. It's probably not going to be that last time, but the ending moment of this episode where everyone's singing that song about peace, love, and understanding. Again, it's a very bittersweet moment. They've very much, Division 3 has kind of lost in this moment, and you really do feel it. And I think they're doing a really great job in this episode with making David the villain, but also you realizing how in over his head he really is. I mean, at this point, yes, David is a full-on villain. He's very much embraced it. Legion has taken full control of him. The scene especially where Sid is being attacked by all those different Davids who are like, I am Legion, I am Legion. Legion has taken over David completely. It's manifested into something far more despicable than the David Haller that we used to know. But the David Haller, of course, is someone who is just very in over his head at this point. He hopes that his actions are, something that he can just escape. He wants to try to move on, but We don't really know if it's going to turn out as well as he thinks it does. But overall, I thought this was just a really strong episode. There was so much that went down here. It was so epic in that way. So many just standout moments. I mean, the opening scene, the stuff with Carrie, Clark's death, Lenny's death, just one of the best episodes of the entire show for sure. And definitely a huge standout in a brilliant season overall. Absolutely love this one. Now, episode 6, chapter 6, this is one that I think is going to be a little bit harder to talk about because this is one of those episodes of Legion where not a lot happens, but also a lot happens. Most of this episode is basically a simulation. It's Sid in this astral plane, essentially getting to live a whole other life than what she's done before. And while I will admit the first 20 or so minutes of this episode is kind of like, what's really the point of all this? Like, you see her, she's like a baby. Melanie and Oliver are now raising her, which we get to see the return of them, which was really cool. And then there's this other girl, Cynthia, that they end up taking in, who's like this, they adopt and things like that. And you're kind of wondering, like, what's really the point of all this? Once Cynthia has that encounter with, like, the wolf and things like that, then I started to realize, okay, now I see what they're trying to do here. Essentially, what this episode is Sid's epiphany. That's very much what this is. It's Sid realizing what David really has been through. The wolf is basically like the Shadow King, where the Shadow King took David away from his family, and there's been this love that Farouk has had for David ever since. And basically, because of that, that's why David has not really been able to get away from any of this. That's why he's fully turned into Legion, because it was inevitable in that way. And the moment where you have teenage Sid and she's trying to save Cynthia, we realize Cynthia doesn't want to be saved. And that's when Sid realizes that, like, yeah, I can't save David if he doesn't want to be. And it's a very effective moment. You start to realize what they're really trying to do. Cynthia, like I said, is that parallel of David where she likes where she's going. She doesn't want to be saved because of the fact that she herself has, enjoyed the path she's on. Yes, it's very fucked up. She's with this much older man, who I have to say, Jason Mantzoukas, holy shit, I have never seen him this good before. He was so good in this episode, and I hope he does more stuff like this. Like, I've never really thought that much of him, but he killed it here, and I loved his portrayal as, this wolf, Jerome. I thought he was so great here. I also really liked the little girl playing Cynthia. I thought she did a really great job as well. I definitely really did like what they did with her. But it really is those closing moments of this episode. That's when you start to realize what this is really all about. Oliver tries to get Cynthia back, but ultimately, like I said, Cynthia doesn't want to go back. I will say, the rap battle with Oliver, though, that's probably one of the weirdest moments in the entire show. I thought it was really great, though. It very much was Jermaine Clement getting to show off, his Flight of the Conchords talents and things like that, which, I mean, that's always a highlight for sure, and I definitely really did appreciate that here. But the ending of the episode, when Sid does eventually come back to reality and she talks to Carrie, and Carrie, she realizes that no, they can't kill David. They have to go back and they have to try to save him. And she has to do what she can to make sure that this actually works out. She knows David's plan isn't really going to work, but she thinks that her plan can in fact work. And the moment where you think Carrie's going to stay there, you're not really sure what's going to happen. You think that Carrie, they almost become one, which I was like, holy shit, are they about to submerge back into one? Because remember, they've been separated for a while. I thought they were going to come back into one entity, but no, Carrie isn't willing to do that. Even though Carrie is very hurt, she herself isn't going to do that anymore. She wants them to be separate entities, and basically Carrie is now very badly, he's very badly wounded from the last episode, but they're going to go back in time. They're going to go try to save David. So all that stuff I really did like. I thought it was a really great way to take Sid on this journey and make her realize what she really needs to do here, and make her go from someone that sees David as just the person that abused her to someone who is in fact a victim and someone that she can save in that way. And realizing what this has really done to him, and I really liked where they end up going there. So what didn't I like about this episode? Again, there was a lot to really enjoy about, but like I said, the first 20 or so minutes, I had a very hard time trying to figure out where this was really all going to go. And also, as much as I do like Jermaine Clement and Jean Smart, I don't really understand why we needed to bring them back. It felt like the show just did it because it's the final season, they're popular characters, so let's bring them back. And again, I love Oliver and Melanie, but I don't understand why they had to be here. Why did we need to bring them back? What were they really trying to say there? And why would Sid have this life with Oliver and Melanie? I get it was a whole other life, but that part of the episode just didn't really work as well for me, and I don't really understand why they needed to be there overall. I felt like you honestly could have gotten anyone to be there, and it probably would have played out the same way. But overall, like I said, this was a highly effective episode. It's one of those things only Legion could have pulled off. I love the fairy tale look of it all. I thought that was really great, the way they pulled that off for sure. It was definitely very fantastical. And I mean, a lot of Legion is definitely very strange, but this episode really leaned heavily into like Grimm's fairy tales and things like that. And I thought that was a really cool approach. It's definitely a really great one for sure. And again, it's something I think only Legion could pull off. So, episode 7, though, this is really where things start to come to a close. I mean, we get a very good understanding, like, where this finale is going to go. And a lot of it does reside back on the story with Charles and, of course, Gabrielle Haller. And I really like getting to see these two again because, from the third episode, we saw Charles go off to that business trip. We didn't see him after that. We actually do get to see him after that here. He's going to Morocco, of course, to meet up with Farouk. And basically, he knew that this was going to happen. A big thing I forgot to mention in the third episode is that Farouk and Charles, they've always been, Charles found Farouk through his, through the Cerebro and things like that, and, he started to detect him there. But these two meet up, and you see Farouk is very manipulative, but he also is very inviting in that way, and this reminds us just how great of a villain Farouk really is. He's great at manipulating people, making you think that it is in your best interest to do what he wants you to do, when in reality, of course, he is manipulating him, and I definitely really did like seeing that. And so the rest of the episode is pretty much us seeing two perspectives. You have Sid, who is trying to, she meets up with Gabrielle and things like that, and is trying to get her to become a better mother, raise David well, make sure that he just has a much better childhood, because that's one of the things that very much did set David down this dark path, is that he didn't really have that emotional support, minus Amy, who of course is gone now, and I guess the show's just never gonna bring up anymore, which is very odd, let me just say. I do think it's weird that they have not once brought up Amy this season. That is still very odd to me, like she's not in the show or anything, because she is still very much there. But basically, she wants Gabrielle to raise David a lot better, while David, on the other hand, his plan is the complete opposite. He is on the path of just revenge, revenge, revenge. He wants to make sure that Charles does defeat Farouk and basically just obliterate him from the universe in that way. And you see how things are going here. For Sid, again, this is her way of, realizing the role she needs to play in David's life. Her role in David's life is not to be his lover, but to be his savior and be the person that course corrects him. And the conversation she had with Carrie, I thought was very compelling. Carrie's on the path where she's just like, well, why can't we just kill him? And Sid talks about how, yeah, it would be easy to kill a baby, but morally we can't do that. This baby is just a baby. It's innocent. It's not David's fault that he went down this dark path, and she's realizing that. And look, I don't think the show is trying to say that, David's abuse towards Sid was justified because, he went down this dark path. I don't think that's what they're trying to say. I think what they're trying to say is that David basically turned into this because of his rough childhood and because of the fact that he wasn't able to get away from it, and he essentially essentially succumb to darkness, and that's what ended up happening to him. So Sid is the person that's going to try to save him here, and eventually she's able to rope Carrie back in, although you do see that Carrie is still kind of like, well, why are we really doing this? I don't really know. She talks to Carrie about it, when he eventually does awaken from his coma. He has no idea what, she really has no idea why they're doing this either, but it actually does seem to be working. Sid is talking to Gabrielle and things like that about how they have to make sacrifices, and I thought that moment was really effective. Obviously Gabrielle is talking about being a mother, but for Sid, she's talking about how she knows she's going to have to lose David, and that's really the bittersweetness of all this, is that even though, yes, she is going to save David, these two are never going to get to be together again, and she still does hold that love for him, and you really do see that here, and I thought that was a very effective moment for sure. And eventually she does kind of get Gabrielle to realize, like, you need to love him unconditionally. You need to do it like your life depends on it. But you also do see that imminent threat of the time eaters. And that's something I do like about this episode, is that they're not trying to make you think everything's just okay. No, the time eaters are still very much there. There are times in this episode where, like, Carrie's talking to Sid and we see it, like, rewind. So the same conversation happens again, or things keep glitching. So yeah, something weird is definitely still going on. They know what's very much at stake. Meanwhile, David is able to get through to Charles. He basically tells him, like, you need to manipulate Farouk, you need to get inside his head and do what you can to put an end to it, and tells him that everything that Farouk is saying is very much a lie. And Charles explains that, like, he came there for friendship, but he starts to realize that Farouk is, in fact, a monster, and the two of them need to take him on. And I like seeing David and Charles working together, but obviously we know this is not the right course of action to take. I think Sid is really going to be the one to fix all of this, but I guess we'll have to see the way things do end up going down there. I think that's going to be very interesting for sure. But then the way this episode ends is just so epic. I love the way things conclude, where basically Farouk does end up emerging from the time between time. He approaches his past self, and you know shit is about to go down between him and David. And they've done a very good job this season, I think, with not showing these two interact that much. So now that we're going to have this one interaction, something big is going to go down, and I'm very excited to see where that does go in the series finale. And then that's pretty much all to talk about, minus Switch. Switch is just at a point where she's unconscious on a couch and things like that, and basically, David talks to Charles about how Switch is just a means to an end for him, so basically saying that he doesn't really care about Switch all that much, and it's sad to see, because again, you're seeing her deteriorate. She's losing more teeth. She's just not in very good condition at this point, and even though David's telling her, like, this is the end, he doesn't really care about her, and you definitely do see that here, and that, again, just shows that David is still very much that monster. He still has succumbed to Legion, and that's why Sid is really going to have to be the one to save him, but that's really how things do wrap up here. So, as I said, moving forward, I think we have a pretty good idea of where things are going to go in this finale. Sid is going to be on the saving path, while David's very much on the revenge path. We're definitely going to see those two converge at some point, but again, it also is very devastating because those two cannot be together anymore, and that's been such a big part of the show, and basically we're starting to see that, like, that love story is a big reason why David turned the way he did, and if they're not together, then things probably will turn out better for them. I guess we'll have to see the way things do go there. I'm really worried about Switch, I have to say. I hope Switch doesn't die in this finale, because she's just she's just getting worse and worse by the minute, and she's weakening constantly, and you're just kind of wondering, like, how long is she going to be able to pull through this? Like, you're hoping she can, but you're not entirely sure, and I don't really know what's going to happen there with Switch. I guess we'll have to see. Carrie, I'm excited to see where they go with their storyline as well. There's a lot of things they definitely can rev up here. I do want at least one mention, like I said, of Amy. That's something that I definitely want to see in this finale. She's been basically, she's been basically extinct from this show. Like, they're acting like she was never there, which is very odd. And again, considering that relationship they had like last season. I do think it's a little odd they haven't mentioned her at least once. I guess we'll have to see the way things do turn out there. Are we going to see Lenny again? Are we going to see Clark again? Are they going to be able to just get things back to the way they were? You know, is everyone going to be brought back? I guess we'll just have to see the way things do play out. Overall, I just hope this finale is very satisfying for the most part. Like I said, these 3 episodes, though, I thought were all very effective. They're all very different, but they definitely all do a good job in playing a role in this second half of the season. I'm very excited to see where the finale does end up going. So now I am going to rate all 3 episodes that I reviewed in this video. So for episode 5, I'm going to rate that episode a very deserving A. Episode 6, I'm actually going to give a B+. And episode 7, I'm definitely going to give an A-. But over, guys, to my review of these episodes of Legion. Let me know what you guys saw this episode overall. Left your thoughts in it. Of course, guys, in my next video, I will be reviewing the series finale. I'm sorry it took me so long to finish this season, but I definitely will be getting to that series finale. I will be reviewing it, and I'm very excited to cover that for sure. But that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoy it. We'll see you guys in my next video, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.